in those moments of pressure, what's inside of you is what's going to come out of you. And so that's why it's so important to invest in yourself. And I was ready to stand firm with the whole world watching because I had been investing in myself well in the private with no one watching. And so, I just encourage all of you, whatever pressures like you're facing, whatever that looks like for you, I would hope it's not reality TV going on The Bachelor, but whatever your pressures look like, take time to really invest in yourself, because that's what's going to prepare you for your moment, for those big moments, those moments when pressure hit, temptation arises, stress comes at you, life knocks you down. Like, that's when you need to have the right tools in the toolbox so that you have what it takes to stand and to know who you are and to be led by your convictions and not your feelings.
If you would like weekly content that builds your faith and helps you walk out all that God has for your life, subscribe and be a part of Life Family.
You grew up in church most all your life?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the church. My parents always showed my sisters and I the importance of, serving at the local church and just the beauty of surrounding yourself with godly men and women. And thankfully, I had my parents who painted such a beautiful picture of really following Jesus and it being more than just law, religion, but it being an actual relationship. And I saw that, as my dad would speak often, and he also coaches. So I got to see him leading, the team and things like that. And so I saw it every day. And then I also got to see him in the bigger moments where other people were watching. And so it was really cool to see just my parents, paint that picture for my sisters and I. But really, my relationship with the Lord became so much more real when I came to college, actually. Okay. And I started freshman year. I really kind of looked myself in the mirror and I was like, I need to ask myself some tough questions and really figure out who I am and who I want to be. And so I really made some decisions in that moment and decided, like, I want to make sure that I make decisions outside of the heat of the moment, because I know sometimes when pressure arrives and temptation arrives, it's easy to just let your feelings lead you in those moments. And so I wanted to make my decisions in those moments outside of the heat of the moment so that I would be prepared for whatever moment would come. And in that moment, I was like, I want to go all in with Jesus, and I don't want it to just be a passed down tradition or religion from my family. I want it to be an intimate relationship that I'm pursuing and seeking out every day. And so that was a decision that I made freshman year of college, and then started serving in the church and leading in the church.
So your decision was just really surveying your life, looking at it and saying, I have a couple of choices here. I can go with culture or I can go with Christ. Was it in a service like this that decision was made, or was it just in the privacy of your own devotion?
In the privacy of my own devotion. I was actually on my dorm room floor, a good old clean dorm room floor. We gotta love that. And I just remember I was kind of at a hard point because I saw a lot of my friends who were making kind of different choices and going kind of a different direction. And I had to ask myself, am I gonna follow that? Am I gonna look like that? Or do I wanna be set apart and be different and not be led by my feelings or by the culture, but be led by my convictions? And so really in that moment, I was like, okay, these are some decisions that I want to make, and this is what I believe. And it was hard, honestly. For a little bit it was very lonely. I lost kind of a lot of friends in that season of my life, but I knew it was ultimately so worth it. And as I started serving more in the church, like, those were where that's where I found my friends, my community, my people, and my purpose.
Church of the Highlands. That's
Church of the Highlands.
Oh man, Pastor Chris.
He's the best.
He is the best.
He's
the absolute
so great.
Best. I love that church. The decision you made to say, this is who I'm going to be going forward, and these are my convictions, and these are my absolutes. It's TxDOT, which is in Texas. It's the Texas Department of Transportation. They keep all of our highways pretty good. They spend millions and millions of dollars every year, tens of millions.
That's a lot of money.
In guardrails. And these guardrails are put in strategic places because they have determined there's something so horrible on the other side of that guardrail. They would be more willing for you to tear your car up than experience what's on the other side of that. Convictions are guardrails, and they keep us from going into places that will bring us great regret. And those guardrails for you proved to be so valuable when you went on the show, The Bachelor. Tell us how you got on the show in the first place.
First of all, I love that analogy. I think it's really powerful. I think guardrails are so important. And I think, too, when you're in life and you're faced with hard decisions or you're faced with danger or stress or pain or depression or so much more, it's in those moments, what's inside of you is what's going to come out of you when you're squeezed, when you're pressed, when you're, under stress. What's inside of you is what's going to come out. And so it's so important in how you've been investing, but also what you've put up around you so that if you start to veer off, you have something set in place that's going to keep you grounded and keep you on the right track. And that's, I think that's why the local church is so important, finding the right people, investing in yourself in the private. So as far as going on the show, I graduated from Auburn in 2018, but I also graduated from Highlands College, which was our church's seminary and leadership program. And I graduated both of those in 2018. I got my degree in pastoral leadership. And so I graduated from seminary. So when the bachelor called me, I'm like, hey, I think you got the wrong Madison. Like I did not think that they meant to call me. And so I was very confused and I thought it was a prank call at first. And so I'm just like laughing and not paying it any attention. But then I realized that they were pretty serious by the end of the call. And I just remember, I was so not even considering it. And I called my mom thinking she would be on the exact same page as me, right? Like she's going to be like, no, you're not going on that show. And instead, she, like a wise mother should, just said, don't make any decisions without praying about it first. And so I just remember I, took that time to pray and just like really seek the heart of the Lord. And even though it felt so against, what I even felt like would be right, it was like the Lord was like, no, I need you to go there. And it didn't make sense to me. It didn't feel like it made sense in line with where I'd been going and what I had been feeling. But I felt the Lord so strongly say, I need you to go. I need you to do this. And I just remember in that moment saying, okay, Lord, and it was a long season of praying and going back and forth with the Lord. I was like, Lord, no, you got to speak to me. You got to make it clear. And I just remember when he did, I was like, okay, Lord, like whatever you will. And I've just seen how there can be so much blessing on the other side of obedience and on the other side of a yes, when you just surrender. And God can use anybody, he can use anything, he can use any situation, and don't put him in a box because you never know. You just never know. I never would have imagined that The Bachelor would have been, my road to really my purpose and where I am today. So
it's terrific. Now, I haven't kept up with all the seasons, so forgive me.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Okay, so there are young ladies that come from all over the United States, maybe even abroad, that come to the show. There's 10, 15...
30. There's 30 of us. Yeah.
And one boy.
And one boy, yeah.
That must be horrible.
Poor guy, right? Poor guy.
So the 30 ladies, what was it like when you arrived there and you're one of 30? Were you anxious, nervous?
I always say peace is always the answer, and peace is always the indicator. I never make decisions. I never take a step forward if I don't feel led by the Spirit or I don't have a peace about it. And when I felt like the Lord was calling me to do that, I had such a peace in my heart. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I had no idea what was going to come out of it. I had no idea what was going to be on the other side. And I was a little terrified because, previous seasons or things that had happened before, the painted picture of Christianity was not a very beautiful one. And I was terrified, if I'm being real with you. I was like, Lord, I want to be a martyr for Christ, but I don't know if I really do, though. I don't want all the opinions. I don't want all the attacks. I don't know how I'm going to be painted. And I was so nervous, but I had such a peace in my heart, and I knew this is where the Lord has called me. And now I look back at the situation, and I've seen just how there's been so much blessing and so many people who have come up and just been encouraged by my journey. And I'm like, who am I? It was totally God's Spirit on the inside of me that was encouraging you, but so many who were encouraged to, I took a stand and shared with the world that I was saving myself for marriage, and so many young girls coming up to me saying they wanted to make that same decision and they were going to wait for, their husband and their person. And, also so many who told me that they gave their heart to the Lord, which is just so beautiful. And just that God could use, someone like me in such an environment like that is just a testament to God's goodness and his power. And, in that season, I entered into it really I'd never watched the show, actually, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I remember being there because I was a pretty sheltered kid. Like, I grew up in the church, and I was, like, just looking around me, and I was like, what am I doing? Where am I? And just, experiencing, a lot of different things. But throughout the whole time when comparison, was there and anxiety was there and fear was there and so much was there to knock on my door and pressure me and try and get me down, I just remember I had so much peace throughout the whole thing and just so much confidence that God had me. And if he called me to it, he was going to sustain me through it. And so I just had peace the entire time.
Oh, that's fantastic. What was your heart going through when, do y'all have rounds or?
Rounds.
Segment? I don't know.
We can go with that. That sounds good. Yeah. We'll roll
you
with that.
kept getting a rose all the way to the end. And it's you and another young lady. And it's come down to two of you. Could you have even imagined you would be in the final pairing?
No, I never imagined. I kind of thought, I was like, oh, maybe I'm here just to encourage some of the girls. And really, my biggest prayer throughout my whole life has always been, Lord, I want my spirit to be the most attractive thing about me. I want your spirit on the inside of me to be what people see, to be what people hear, to be what people experience and encounter when they're around me. And I want that to be what overflows out of me. And I knew in that environment that a lot of them didn't have any type of understanding of a relationship with the Lord. And I just continued to pray throughout that whole process, Lord, let it be your spirit. Let them see you. Let them feel you. And it was so cool because throughout the time, so many of the girls would come up to me and just open up to me and just share, how are you so confident? What if you don't get a rose? Are you nervous? Are you scared? And I got to just encourage them and say, no, I'm not nervous. I'm not scared because you know what? If I don't get that rose, that rose isn't validation. That rose isn't telling me who I am. I already know who I am. And that doesn't do anything for me. That just means if I get another rose, that just means that I'm supposed to stay here. And if I don't, it just means that it's not rejection, it's redirection for God's best for my life. And I got to just encourage them, you know what, yeah, it's going to sting, it might hurt, but don't take it as rejection. Don't let his inability to see your worth be a stumbling block for you to be able to see your worth, because God says you're worthy and God says you're more than enough, and he doesn't get to determine that. And so I got to just encourage them with that, and that was really cool. And I never would have imagined that I would have gone to, the very end, but just kept feeling stay, I need you here. And really at the very end of the show was kind of those pivotal moments where I got to really share my heart, and I got to really open up about my faith and, my convictions and my, decisions to wait until marriage. And I got to share that with a lot of people. And so I didn't imagine it, but it's really cool to see how God has used it.
You are such a credit to the glory of God and to great parents. Way to go, parents, mom and dad. You did fantastic. So it's the two of you. He's going to give one a rose. One is not going to get a rose. If I'm getting over into areas that they've forbidden you to talk about, just shake your head because I don't know. All right, so it's possible you felt pressure to go against one of your convictions to get the rose. That pressure must have been enormous. A lot of us have different kinds of pressure. Peer pressure with, in whatever business you're in, you feel pressure to, do I go with my convictions or do I compartmentalize it and come back to it? But it's situational. Let's see what I'm trying to ask here. Do you, that pressure must have been intense because it needed for you to say okay.
Yeah, and I definitely felt such a weight. I felt such a weight, but I knew, like I said earlier, I knew God had called me to it, so I knew it was going to be his spirit that was going to give me the strength and the ability to know when to walk away, to know when to stand up, to know when to use my voice, and it was going to be that spirit that was going to give me the confidence, the courage, the grace, the strength, and everything that I needed in between. And two, what I would say, and I think I kind of hit on it earlier, but in those moments of pressure, what's inside of you is what's going to come out of you. And so that's why it's so important. Like, it's so important to invest in yourself. And I was ready to stand firm with the whole world watching, because I had been investing in myself well in the private with no one watching. And so, I just encourage all of you, whatever pressures like you're facing, whatever that looks like for you. I would hope it's not reality TV going on The Bachelor, but whatever your pressures look like, take time to really invest in yourself, because that's what's going to prepare you for your moment, for those big moments, those moments when pressure hit, temptation arises, stress comes at you, life knocks you down. Like, that's when you need to have the right tools in the toolbox so that you have what it takes to stand and to know who you are and to be led by your convictions and not your feelings. And I remember, in those moments, I was like, okay, I'm faced with that pressure and that temptation that I could give in to whatever I feel. I could go with whatever, people around me are telling me to do or telling me to say, or, trying to encourage me to stay or to go with the flow or whatever it is, and there was pressure, there was temptation, there was voices all around me. And I knew what would be seen as popular and what would be seen as maybe not so popular. But I had to ask myself, what do I value? What do I value most? And to me, I value my relationship with Jesus the most. And so I knew from that place, that's where I'm going to make all of my decisions. And I asked myself, in situations, not just in bachelor life, but outside of bachelor life, and any time there's a situation that arises, there's 3 questions that constantly go through my mind. 1, does this make me more like Jesus? I want to look like Jesus as much as I can, right? I want to have the aroma of Christ around me, in me. And I think 2 would be, does this push me closer to Jesus? I want to be entwined as one. I want to be made one with him. And then 3rd, does this help me make a difference for Jesus? I want as many people to experience what I get to experience every single day. And so I'm constantly going through those things in my mind, and through my head. And I think, it's going to come down to what you value, and that's going to be your, that determining factor of when when to say yes and when to say no. And 2, I think Romans 12 paints a beautiful picture, for us as it says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then it goes on to say, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. And it shows us that second part is fully contingent on that first part, right? Like, we have to renew our minds. We have to constantly be feeding ourselves, feeding our spirit, God's word. We need to be surrounding ourselves with the right people. We need to be in church. We need to be worshiping, and those kinds of things. That's going to get us ready to know when to say yes, when to say no, when to walk away, when to stand up. It's not just this adrenaline rush moment that you just are in the moment and you're like, okay, I have what it takes. No, it's the preparation beforehand, and it's the spirit inside of you that gets you ready.
So your answer was no.
No.
And heaven said yes. So way to go, Maddie Prewett. I'm proud of you. Thank you for using that platform to reveal the glory of God, and that incredible 20s, 30-year-olds can have convictions and stand by them, and it's just good. And I'm so thankful for you. One of the names that Jesus took for himself was, he said, I could be called the Rose of Sharon. So anybody that falls in love with Jesus gets a rose. He is the rose.
I love that.
I know in those some of the lonely hours you went through, it was probably Christian music that kept you.
It was definitely Phillips, Craig, and Dean. Like, that's what was going through my mind, for sure. Revelation songs, specifically, actually.
Good and well you never heard one of my songs.
No, okay, actually, you know what I realized backstage? I did sign language one time to the Revelation song.
Really?
Yes, I did. I used to perform
Can you
sign
still
language.
do it?
It was like 15 years ago. It's been a hot minute, so probably not.
Worthy is the...
All I know is Lord. I got,
Okay.
I got Lord.
That's all
I got. God, Lord. That's what I got.
Parents, this is how you redirect your kids. Like Brittany's over here. Brittany, look over here at Maddie. Look at Maddie. You give us such hope, and you're a true shining light in a dark world.
If you don't have a home church, we want to invite you to be part of Life Family. Remember, you belong here. We're so excited that you've joined us today. Join us again next Sunday or anytime throughout the week. You can subscribe to our channel and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss a service. We're so excited you joined us today.